is I want to introduce a very good friend of mine who is also on one of the organizers for Monterey County Skeptics, as well as a very brand new 501c3, maybe 2 weeks old nonprofit that we have. It's called About Time, that does incorporate the Monterey County Skeptics in there. So now we are a nonprofit. Just wanted to just throw that out there. And Glenn Church is a very good friend of mine who runs Church's Christmas tree farms out in Royal Oaks. Okay, out in Royal Oaks. And he has been talking about politics for years and years, and he's one of these people that always he explains it so well that I'm able to really explain it back to other people. It's just fascinating, his take on politics. And I believe that we're ready to go. Oh, we gotta get your slides up here.
Look at the whoa!
Mark, did you do that with your brain and mind? I really wish you could stop doing those kinds of things. He's disruptive. I'm telling you.
That'll work.
As I said, usually this is already done for me, so I don't really have to do it. All right, and I leave you with Glenn Church.
Step on the cord right here, get this set up. I don't usually use some notes, but I change my slides around so often that I kind of lost track of exactly, and I need a little prompting. Get this, okay. Got everything lined up here. So good morning. You folks have come out here today, this event, I'm assuming are pretty well informed and rational people. And I assume that most of you are probably voters and well-informed and rational voters. So, you know, and voting, of course, after all, is our civic duty. Lots of good reasons for it. You know, people always bring up saying, you know, people have died for your rights, and we know the struggles of women suffragists back in the 19th century, and then the civil rights, people were jailed and beaten and worse, trying to seek the right to vote. So it's obviously a very, very important right to do that. What I'd like to do to start with is kind of do a little survey on everybody here. Get a so I'm going to ask you to raise your hands on. I'll do it right now. And but I do want to ask you to keep your hand up because I'm going to follow up with a few other questions and then have your hands come down. And what I'm going to ask you is everybody who's ever voted. Now, I'm sure there's a few of you who may not have voted and made a conscientious decision. And as I go on my talk, you'll probably think I'm validating your position. I know there's one of you in here who's under 18, so I'm sure a few of you haven't voted, but anybody who's ever voted could just hold your hand up, keep it up. All right, very good. You all look like really good citizens. Oh, keep them up though, keep it up. And I'm sure you know now, who the president is and the vice president. And I'm assuming most of you know who the governor is in the state of California. But now I'm going to ask you, keep your hand up if you can recall who both our U.S. senators are in California. If you can't recall both senators, drop your hand down. The rest of you, keep your hands up. Very good. And if you're out of the state, just think of the senators, in your own state. Now, keep your hand up. I want to ask you, do you recall who your member of the House of Representatives is, or Congress member of the House of Representatives? If you can't recall that, drop your hand down. Okay, so pretty good. Now, how about your state senator? If you don't know your state senator, put your hand down. If you don't know your assembly member, put your hand down. We're thinning out here pretty good. Now, every county has a board of supervisors, and it's split into 5 districts. Except for San Francisco, it has 11 supervisors. So if you don't know who you member of the board of supervisor of your county? Put your hand down. And keep your hand up if you say yes to all the questions and you've been agreed to. We're down a handful of people. Now, keep your hand up if you can recall a single member on any school board, whether it's high school, community college, or county board of education. Keep your hand up. We got 6 people. You can put your hands down now. 6 people out of 60.
Wow.
And I knew Karen back there was going to be one of them. So, that's good. Those people do need an applause. And keep that in mind, because I'm going to be coming back to this, particularly as we get towards the end of my talk of this. So, we just had an election here, as you all are probably well aware of. And these are the votes that were in the 2016 election. About 137 million people voted. A lot of people, and if you voted, as I assume most of you probably did, your vote was one of those. And I tried to think of a way in which I could kind of analyze this, because I want to do several different comparisons here, and I said, well, I need to have a way I can demonstrate what votes would look like. And so I said, well, what happens if I tried to make like 137 million pixels on my computer at 72 dpi, and then I was going to put one little red one in there just to signify my vote or your vote. Well, the problem I found out is that this massive number is so big, it would take a 13.5 square foot, 13.5 by 13.5 foot screen, which I obviously don't have. So I had to shrink this one down. I shrank it down to a 6 by 6 area, which is like 4%. Your vote, my vote, should be right up here, a little red dot. You can't see it. That's because it's insignificant, just like your vote was. So, now there have been some studies in the past about, well, what's the probability of your vote really being significant in something like a presidential election? And there's a couple of guys, researchers, Gelman and Kaplan, which is one thing. They determined there is a 1 in 10 million chance the vote will matter in a president-like race. And the only problem, with the 137 million votes that I just showed you, in this 1 in 10 million chance right here, is that we don't have a national election for president. We have statewide elections. So 137 million votes, where I put yours up there in the red dot no one can see, should really be more out of 14 million votes which were cast for president in California. So, if you want to carry that on, here's a little red dot up there in the corner, and this would be a 4.5 by 4.5 foot square, reduced down to basically 6 inches, and your vote is for California up here in the corner. Now, I kind of misled you when I said your vote could impact a presidential race, have a 1 in 10 million chance. Because Gelman and Kaplan determined that for voters in swing states, like Nevada or Virginia. California, New York, Utah, places that are in swing states, your vote doesn't have anywhere near a 1 in 10 million chance of really being significant. It's pretty much on par to your cell phone being a teleportation device. So you have this, actually, if you're going to go and vote in California, where it's almost always going to go for a Democrat anyway, and you want to go and vote, and you think, I want to maybe have a meaningful thing I'm doing here by voting, it'd be more meaningful if you went actually and played Super Lotto, because your odds of winning are only 1 in 40 million. So that would be a whole lot better. Now, there is an interesting little paradox here. It comes up because is called Downs paradox, and that's you know, for a rational, self-interested voter, the cost of voting would far exceed the benefits. You just show it here in California. You're going to vote for president. Your vote is just, it's not going to have any statistical significance meaning. You're actually at greater risk of dying in a car accident going and voting at the polls than you are having your vote out of a meeting. Now, if you look at other statewide races in California, like governor, senator, constitutional offices, attorney general and all, you know, we're getting down there where it's probably, you know, maybe better in the right situation to vote than go and buy that lotto ticket. So, yeah, those extreme ones are just on for the presidency. So maybe what we need to do is shrink things down a little bit more. Here's the local congressional District 20. In 2016, Jimmy Panetta got elected rather comfortably. There's about just under 256,000 voters into there. So now we're getting a little more on a one-on-one here. I mean, if I wanted to put all these into 72 DPI laptop pixels, I could actually do it on a 7-inch by 7-inch square. I still shrunk it down to 6 inches because I'm trying to keep myself comparable with the other ones. So now, here's your vote. Can you see it up there? There's a little red dot up there. You see it? Maybe you can just imagine it's there because you want your vote to really be important. Maybe you have a good imagination. Just kind of look up there. All right. Well, the chances that your vote could matter in this kind of race, I have no idea what the probability is, but I'm sure we're getting down there to where it's, I don't know if it's 1 in a million or what, but it's getting a little better. So we just shrink it down a little bit more. Here's the city of Salinas. About 35,000 people voted. I can put all these pixels in about 2.5 inch square. If I blow it on up, down. Can you see it now? No. There, right there. Just look at that very corner. See that? No. You don't see it. Come on, you look there. It's there. It really is. I've seen it. All right. Well, let's go one step down. Here's a Del Rio City Council in 2016. It's about, I can't remember what was in there, 1,400 and something. Actually, this is like 4/10 of an inch. I can put all these in. And, do you see it?
Yes. Yes.
There it is. It's there. And there you can actually see your vote and how it relates to into there. Now, I'm not sitting here just trying to say, that's a waste of time voting. Because, make sure I got my, you can have things come up like this. You might have heard of this race.
Wow.
This is this last November. This is a race for the Virginia House of Delegates. And they had a recount, and the votes are still tied. And actually, just a couple days ago, they had to draw lots. And David Yancey won a lot. Now, one vote made a difference right here. One vote. And actually more than just in this race, because there's a gubernatorial race. At that point, the law said that a candidate had to have 50% plus one vote to get elected. One fellow ended up with exactly 50% out of 102,000 votes. One vote short. But these kind of races like this happen periodically. And I don't have information on ones that at the county or the city level across the country or other special districts, but it happens really quite often there. I myself know of a case back in the 1980s of a fellow who ran 3 times for the school board out in my area and lost by 5 votes, 3 votes, and 1 vote. So, you know, your vote can't have an impact out of there. Now, I'm sure Arnold will tell me if this do more than that, who their county supervisor was. But all of you, I'm sure, are quite aware of what's happening in Washington and the president and what's going on. So you're going about really informing yourself and keeping yourself well informed. When there's a presidential election, you know the issues between Clinton and Trump. You watch hours of debates, and then you go and vote for something that has no absolute significance. But most people will not put any kind of even significant effort into the local races. And this is where your vote can have a difference. This is where, if you really want to be a rational voter, you don't go and study the presidential race, or even the governor's race, or even the Senate race. You should be studying the local race, at least to some degree, so you understand what's going on. And this is what's really, it's really important, because what's happening at a local level is affecting us on a day-to-day life, much more than is here and there a Donald Trump tweet is going to have. I mean, it's the city, it's the county, it's the special district election. It determines what happens on roads, litter control, fire and police protection, parks, libraries, zoning. Determines how the children in your neighborhood are going to be educated. And if you're really going to go about and want to be a well-informed, rational voter, you need to really be taking that into consideration. Because usually these local elections, just to a lot more off-year elections, they don't get voter turnout. So it's what happens in that case is we have a lot of special interests that can come into play. And now, the problem is, it's become extremely difficult to become a knowledgeable voter on local politics. One, you can look at how just newspapers have collapsed. And it's not just how we only have 2/3 of newspapers that were 15 years ago. It's 50 or 60 years ago, newspapers were thick. They covered issues locally of what local boards did. They covered city council, board of supervisors meetings. There was information in there. You can find out what's going on. Now, they don't even have it. They used to send, I know locally, they used to send the reporters down to city council members. Each of the main newspapers, the Californian and the Herald, and to the board of supervisors. They don't do that now. They don't already ever cover that stuff. It just isn't covered. And so it really becomes an honors task for anybody these days to get local information. And what has happened by having the average citizen not being involved is then you're getting money interests that are coming in, special interests are coming in, they're influencing what happens locally far more than they are in Washington or in Sacramento because nobody is watching them. Or you're getting one issue special interest groups coming in. So my point here has been, as I just stated a few minutes ago too, is you need to shift some of your focus to whichever you can to more local, because this is what's personally affecting you. And just to not leave it completely, it's a total waste of time to vote for president, as I sort of did earlier. There is one really good advantage to going out and voting for these other offices, and that is, if you know you're going to vote, you tend to be more motivated to follow issues, to see what's going on in government, and understanding what's happening. And the more you understand there, the more better you're going to be making choices in life. You can vote for president, and you may not affect the presidential election, but you will make a change in yourself. And hopefully part of that change comes down to looking at the local offices. So thank you.
With what he's going to talk about, and there's so many topics that he thought about maybe doing, and I'm glad you stuck with this, and this was terrific, and it should be taught in schools, as far as I'm concerned. I think you're going to see a better turnout. At least 60 more people will vote this year. Bring a friend to the next election. We have time for a couple quick questions. Let me come over with my microphone. Remember, we're going to try to hand it. Thank you.
million votes that Clinton got more than Trump. How many were in California?
How many were what?
California.
In California.
California? Clinton won by she got about 3 million more, as you say. She got just about 3 million more in California.
So all the difference was in California.
Well, yeah, but if you took California out, that would be true. But, you know, there are other states, of course, that you want comfortably too.
Yes. I heard you say that the Herald in California no longer send reporters to the, no, let me just say board of supervisors and the city councils, but I think that's quite unjust for you to say that about the party. You should mention, for example, Salinas has 170,000 people and has 5,008 subscriptions to the newspaper. So until you subscribe to your newspaper, I don't want to hear you bitching about what it doesn't cover. Thank you.
Well, I subscribe to it.
I'm definitely going to talk about that too. I agree.
Hi, I moved a couple of years ago to California from Texas, and so some of the issues, one thing is that you're not doing like what the margin is, and then some of this relates to voters being disenfranchised. So all the people that don't get to vote in Texas, whether they're non-citizens or discouraged from votes, Texas still gets the full representation of all the population, even the non-citizens. That's an interesting thing about the way the system works. But also, because Texas was subject to the restrictions of the Voting Rights Act, which was a good thing, they had to have like single-member districts for city council and things like that. And that's one thing that affects how much difference your vote makes, which means now in Santa Cruz, my vote counts for less because it's all at-large council members. So I don't know if you want to address that, but if you support democracy, there's some work to be done in California as well.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole issue in itself. I mean, you know, I think you've kind of addressed the point yourself really good there, Paul. And it's, you know, there's a whole lot of different voting methods too. You can do, you know, tiered votes like they do in San Francisco, which some people say, or you know, you vote first and second and third, and so if nobody gets 50%, the votes just automatically, the second vote goes in place of the first. If that person didn't get enough votes to continue, so there's different voting patterns that can be done that can make things more democratic and hopefully generate more interest.
I want to mention very quickly what McGregor was saying, and I was thinking the same thing when you were talking, that, you know, I'm all about science education, let's support our science teachers, let's support critical thinking, but we do need to really make sure that we are supporting our journalists and the newspapers, especially local newspapers. I wanted to make sure that everybody remembers that we should subscribe, and I still take a paper. It's delivered to my house for the Herald, and for the Salinas Californian, and you know, and on and on. And I take those papers after I've read them, the daily paper, leave it at McDonald's, and let somebody else enjoy it as well. And I think that we need to make sure we're supporting that as well.
I just wanted to reiterate what you were saying about like the coverage of local elections. Every now and then, I'm told to choose all these different judges on the election, and I look online before the election. I can find nothing except sometimes very conservative websites, and they'll tell me all the judges that I shouldn't vote for because they're activists or they're terrible, and those are the ones they're the ones that are educating me on the judges I'm supposed to vote for. There's nowhere else you can find it because, you know, even with the newspaper thing, the media consolidation, like the LA Times has just gone downhill. I used to have a subscription years ago, but there's no point now. It's just all AP stories. They don't really have journalists going out and doing stuff. But yeah, I do think we should support journalists, but I don't think that's going to be the print media that much longer in the future.
And you see, that's what's going to really be the demise of democracy. It isn't what's Trump doing in Washington so much. It's going to be because we don't know what's happening locally. And I think subscribing to newspapers, that's great. It's going to help. Maybe they'll have more money for covering these things, but there has to be a whole new paradigm created out of those two, because people aren't going to And newspapers are now drifting out of that. So there has to be a way in which people can stay informed, because that's the only way this is going to work. As Tim O'Neill said, all politics is local.
Hi, Glenn.
Yes.
Here, microphone, Peter. I got a question for you, and do you feel elections and politics are fair? And let me give you 2 examples. You had the numbers for Trump and Clinton, and you never mentioned anything about this electoral college where someone can get a popular vote and still lose. And the other point is, I was attending some conferences, forums that Casey Lucius and Jimmy Panetta were doing locally, and they were already laughing off the point that this area is so liberal and democratic that Casey didn't have any chance. So, would you consider elections fair and balanced?
Okay, you might have to answer that quickly, because I want to try to get one more question.
Yeah, that's, it's redistricting and gerrymandering things that really have anything, a lot of problems, especially in other states. So, there are a lot of things that really aren't fair and balanced about it. And in terms of the electoral college, I did a talk on this last year, and one thing in my research I found out is that when the popular vote is closer than 3%, historically, between the candidates, that means the electoral college will misfire about 40% of the time and elect the person who got lesser votes. That's historical.
Say that again?
When the popular vote is closer than 3%, the college will misfire and select the person with the lower vote 40% of the time.
I want to thank you for your presentation, because it's a very personal meaning for me. 3 years ago, when I moved here from a very large city, I became immersed in local politics. And it's kind of like what Tocqueville said in the 1800s, really democracy is at the village level. And I discovered that personally after all these years of living on this earth. So you have absolved me from my guilt, because I feel like I should be out there, advocating for the presidential elections, and here I am spending 100% of my time and, beating my head against the wall for local politics. But I do want to encourage everyone, because I think you're so absolutely right, and I only discovered this concept now in the later part of my life after retirement. So thank you. It really makes a lot of sense, and you justify why I think what I'm doing now is so important. Thank you.
Sum that up right there. We're going to go to break because we're on time. Talk about awesome so far. Just keep that in mind later when we fall behind. We're going to take a 15-minute break. I do want to point out really quickly that Monterey County Skeptics and the Humanistic Society have had some really great coverage by the media. The Herald is here, Pinecone is here, and the Coast Weekly has also written up an article about us as well. I train a group of people to edit Wikipedia to make the best information possible available, and we have to rely on those journalists to write the stories in the first place so we have something to cite. So,